Why was Elijah the prophet taken to heaven in such a mysterious way? Discover the secret behind the chariot of fire. High on a mountain, a majestic scene unfolded. A chariot of fire descended from the sky, illuminating the horizon and bringing an air of mystery and power. The prophet Elijah was about to experience a moment that would echo through generations. Imagine the tension in the air, the palpable anticipation. What could have brought Elijah to this point? What challenges did he face before being carried away in a heavenly chariot? Elijah lived during a tumultuous period in Israel's history, when the worship of Baal was predominant and the nation was facing a crisis of identity and faith. It was a time when the worship of God was being challenged by idolatrous religious practices that seduced the people and corrupted their values. The scenario was marked by a government that promoted idolatry and, consequently, moral corruption. The figure of Elijah emerges in this context as a beacon of hope, a prophet who arose to call the people back to the true God. The transition from worship to monotheism in Israel was a complex process, influenced by King Ahab and his wife Jezebel, who promoted the worship of Baal and hindered the restoration of faith in Yahweh. Elijah, therefore, was not just a prophet, he was a symbol of resistance against this tide of apostasy. His role becomes even more relevant when one considers that he confronted not only political leaders but also popular culture that encouraged idolatry rather than the worship of the true God. The impact of their actions reverberated through generations, setting a model of faith and courage. Elijah was known for his unwavering courage and determination. His life was marked by extraordinary miracles that defied human comprehension. In one of the most iconic moments of his ministry, Elijah confronted the prophets of Baal in a challenge on Mount Carmel. As the followers of Baal cried out to their God without response, Elijah called upon the true God, who sent fire from heaven to consume the prepared sacrifice. This event not only demonstrated divine power, but also established Elijah as an authentic spokesman for God. Furthermore, throughout his journey, Elijah performed miraculous healings, raised the dead, and multiplied food in times of famine. His extraordinary deeds were not only demonstrations of power, but also signs of divine care and provision for those who trust in God. Elijah was not just an ordinary man. He was an extraordinary being shrouded in mystery and divine power. His life was marked by moments of intimacy with God, where he received guidance and revelations that enabled him to fulfill his prophetic mission. In his moments of solitude and trial, Elijah found strength in communion with the Creator, seeking wisdom and direction to face the challenges that presented themselves. His unshakable faith and immeasurable courage were fruits of this intimate relationship with the divine. As he looked to the heavens, Elijah knew he was about to enter a new dimension of existence, transcending human limitations to become an instrument in the hands of God. The chariot of fire was not just a celestial vehicle, it was a tangible manifestation of the Creator's power and presence in Elijah's life. This extraordinary experience invites us to reflect on our own spiritual journey and seek a deeper connection with the divine, just as Elijah did throughout his life. Elijah's ascension to heaven in a chariot of fire is one of the most fascinating and enigmatic moments in the biblical narrative. After years of struggling with idolatry and moral corruption, Elijah was surprised by a divine manifestation that transcended the laws of nature. As his followers watched in amazement, a flaming chariot descended from the heavens to carry him away. The fire that engulfed the chariot was not just an earthly flame, it was a representation of the power of God himself. The ascension was not just a physical departure, but a symbolic one, indicating that Elijah was being raised to a new state of spiritual existence. This extraordinary event not only concluded Elijah's earthly ministry, but also affirmed his position as one of the greatest prophets in biblical history, whose legacy would echo for centuries. Elijah's ascension to heaven in a chariot of fire was not merely a visual spectacle for the astonished spectators who witnessed the extraordinary event. From a symbolic and theological perspective, Elijah's ascension represents the transition from an earthly prophet to a heavenly state, where his mission and legacy would continue to echo through the ages. The fire that engulfed the chariot was not merely a physical manifestation, but symbolic of the divine power that accompanied it. The narrative suggests that Elijah did not experience death in the same way as mortals. He was taken up in an act of glorification for his faithfulness and service to God. Theologically, Elijah's ascension is rich in interpretation, symbolizing the hope of life after death and the reward reserved for the righteous for their works. Furthermore, it draws parallels with other religious traditions that speak of the ascension of important figures as a confirmation of divine power over human limitations. Elijah's ascension is seen as an anticipation of the promise of redemption and a sign of the continuity of the prophetic ministry in the history of Israel. After Elijah ascended to heaven in the chariot of fire, the disciple Elisha found himself faced with a monumental challenge. It was not just a matter of continuing his mentor's prophetic work, but of assuming a legacy that transcended the boundaries of the ordinary. Elisha was not just an apprentice. He was destined to become a spiritual leader and a prophetic voice in a world marked by corruption and idolatry. The relationship between Elijah and Elisha was not simply that of a teacher and disciple. It was a divinely orchestrated connection to ensure that God's message would continue to echo through the ages. In inheriting Elijah's prophetic mantle, Elisha did not simply acquire supernatural powers. He committed himself to keeping alive the flame of truth and justice in a time of spiritual darkness. His journey would be marked by unimaginable challenges, extraordinary miracles, and a profound intimacy with the divine. Just as Elijah had prepared the way for him, Elisha was now ready to walk his own path, carrying with him the light of hope and the strength of faith. The relationship between Elijah and Elisha goes beyond the simple role of teacher and disciple. It represents the transmission of a spiritual and prophetic legacy that would shape the future of Israel. While Elijah was known for his courage and boldness in the face of challenges, Elisha brought with him a unique sensitivity and compassion. The connection between the two prophets was not limited to teaching prophetic techniques or performing miracles, but rather to sharing fundamental values such as justice, mercy, and faithfulness to God. Elisha not only absorbed Elijah's knowledge and gifts, but also brought his own essence to enrich the prophetic ministry. His distinctive approach, marked by empathy and concern for the marginalized, complemented the mission begun by his mentor. The succession between Elijah and Elisha symbolizes not only the continuity of the prophetic ministry in Israel, but also the ability of spiritual leadership to adapt to the challenges of each era, keeping the flame of faith and truth alive even in the face of adversity. After the rise of Elijah, Elisha took on the mantle of prophecy and faced unprecedented challenges. His journey as a prophet was marked by a series of extraordinary miracles that demonstrated the continuity of divine power in his life. In one of the most remarkable episodes, Elisha multiplied food to feed a hungry multitude, revealing not only his connection with God, but also his concern for the practical needs of the people. In addition, he performed impressive healings, restoring health to those who were sick and bringing hope to the helpless. Elisha's work as a prophet was not limited to supernatural deeds. He also played a fundamental role in the spiritual guidance of the people of Israel, promoting justice and righteousness in the midst of corruption and idolatry. His life was a living testimony to God's faithfulness and the power of faith in action. The story of Elisha teaches us about the importance of persistence and trust in times of adversity. Taking on the prophetic mantle of Elijah was not just a matter of receiving supernatural powers, but rather embracing a divine calling that required courage and determination. Elisha faced unique challenges on his journey, proving himself worthy of the legacy left by his mentor. His spiritual leadership was marked by a deep connection with the people and a compassion that compelled him to act on behalf of those in need. In addition to performing extraordinary miracles, Elisha sought to promote social justice and equality among the most vulnerable, following in the footsteps of Elijah, but also forging his own path. His exemplary life invites us to reflect on how we can be agents of transformation in our time, inspiring us to keep the flame of faith and hope alive even in the most challenging circumstances. Elijah's legacy transcends time and space, echoing through the centuries as a beacon of faith and courage. His life and ministry are not just stories of the past, but living lessons that resonate in our hearts to this day. Elijah's journey teaches us the importance of standing firm in our convictions, even in the face of the most challenging adversity. His courage in the face of opposition and his unwavering trust in God are inspiring examples for us all, showing that no matter the circumstances, true faith can move mountains. Just as Elijah faced his fears and fought for what he believed in, we are encouraged to follow his example and persevere on our own spiritual journey. May Elijah's story remind us of the importance of keeping the flame of hope and determination alive in our hearts, guiding us toward a future filled with light and meaning. Discover more about this incredible spiritual journey by subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any details. I hope you were moved by this incredible story. Comment below how it impacted you. See you in the next video.